I think the most energetic, positive period I lived through was when the Soviet Union fell apart and the Warsaw Pact disappeared. That was when we thought that we would have learned something. That was when we thought that now there could be peace because there would not be two blocs fighting each other, but there would be a possibility when NATO disappeared too, because the Warsaw Pact had disappeared, that we could begin to talk East-West in Europe without arsenals of weapons. It was also the time when, thanks to peace movement activity and peace researchers and historians in various popular movements, had walked the streets of Europe and fought against the middle-range nuclear missiles, the SS-20, the Pershing IIs, etc. And we got rid of them. These are the ones, similar weapons, that the United States has now forced Germany to accept on its territory. 40 years later, that's where we are. And you know, that was in the period in which every important Western leader went over to Gorbachev in Moscow, the last president of the Soviet Union, and promised him that the West would not take advantage of the weakness and the falling apart of the Soviet Union. We will not expand NATO 1 inch. That was where we cheated, and has cheated them ever since. Whether I think we have a new Cold War, yes, I do. And it's much worse than the old one because there's no communication between Russia and the West. Totally. Russia is cancelled. Putin is cancelled. Westerners cannot read the main Russian media, such as Russia Today. We don't even have so much freedom and so much self-confidence that we allow our citizens to read how Russia looks upon this. And by the way, it's a violation of human rights. We are preventing that human right in the Western world that says that we are champions of human rights. So the long story short here is, we ran into a new Cold War thanks to NATO's expansion against the promises NATO leaders themselves gave. And if you cheat somebody for 30 years, that somebody is going to react at some point. My dear friends, if the United States had been situated where Russia is situated today, it would have stopped it long ago and thrown out NATO or a Russian alliance next to its border. Russia has only done what any NATO country would do, namely see to it that there is a security zone and you don't come too close. The best would have been if the non-aligned countries had remained non-aligned. Finland, Sweden, Austria, Yugoslavia, etc. Because when you have neutrality, non-aligned members, you have a buffer zone of less tension. But these fools in the Western world thought that we can get it anywhere because Russia is weak. Excuse me, Russia was weak, has been weak for a long time, but Russia is not going to be weak militarily, economically, politically, forever. It was a stupid, short-sighted way of thinking. And mind you, Russia's economy, I saw the Russian economy in the 70s and 80s. You went into a supermarket, there was nothing. Now, the Russian economy is the fourth largest in the world. It's bigger than Japan in a few years. In spite of running the war, they've become the fourth largest economy. How could we make such a miscalculation that we could keep Russia down forever, militarily, politically, economically? I think we've done some enormous immoral, political, intellectual blunders in the Western world under the leadership of NATO and NATO's leader, the United States. And the European Union, unfortunately, has not been able to become an alternative to that aggressive policy and that expansionist policy. You accuse Russia of doing what we do ourselves much worse. You say Russia is an expansionist, revisionist, imperialist power. Putin wants to conquer all of Europe. What is it we have done? We have conquered all of Eastern Europe up to the border of Russia. And now NATO is fighting in Russia. So we're blaming him for trying to do, in a small scale, what the Western world has been doing for 300 years around the world. Conquering, occupying, bombing, regime changes, etc. That we are now in a situation that proves that we have learned absolutely nothing from the Second World War and the Cold War. And a country, a leadership, a culture that cannot grasp that the world is changing. If you can't see that, you will lose your leadership. I think the United States is losing its leadership, and for very good reasons. It didn't have to, but it has decided to run politics in such a way that it will lose its respectability, its leadership, its legitimacy in the eyes of the rest.